All right. Hey, my friends, and welcome to today's episode where I want to talk about what freedom from the OCD and anxiety loop feels like. And I want to talk about what that is because oftentimes I think misconceptions about what that is lead people to create their own barriers that actually prevent them from ever reaching that. And I want to really talk about what that means today. So before we dive in, if you don't know me, my name is Matt Cotty, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. And if you're looking for help on your journey to recovery, I have some links down in the notes to share with you, as well as some great resources on my site at restoredminds.com that you can access. And if you benefit from the show, please help us out real quick by liking, subscribing, and leaving a nice review, as it really helps the algorithm and gets this content to more people. So, with that said, let's talk about what freedom is, what it feels like. So, if you've been a part of the show for a while, and one of the things that I will hear a lot of people say is, "Well, I've definitely made progress." And if you're measuring your progress based off whether or not a feeling is there or whether or not you're having thoughts that you don't want, what will generally happen is you'll go in waves, right? You'll go in episodes or kind of like an ebb and flow. Sometimes you'll feel better, sometimes you'll feel worse. And the thing is that whole narrative really prevents you, in my opinion, from ever really getting to a place of true recovery, because you're measuring the entire thing, the entire idea, incorrectly. You see what the difference in someone, quote unquote, getting better, right, and improving versus really recovering is a difference in like a fundamental perspective of life, right? Like, if you have an underlying perspective of fear, right, that this world is dangerous and it's happening to me and I need to figure out all the ways that I could get hurt or all of that stuff, versus living in a state of like actual trust where you fundamentally feel safe, that is really the difference in recovery, where your entire nervous system is really able to get to the place where you trust and you feel safe and secure. If there's an undertone of anxiety constantly and it just merely shifts themes and you kind of don't feel it as much sometimes because you're real busy, or you keep yourself really distracted, or you do these certain things to get rid of it from time to time and kind of bury it, that's not really getting better, right? That you're just kind of riding the waves. What recovery is an internal place where you realize you can live from a place of trust, that fear doesn't actually serve you. Fear in its very nature is destructive. And you realize that living in fear is one of the most senseless things to do in life. That all it leads to is destruction in one form or another. So, and the trick with fear is that we will constantly convince ourselves that it's logical and practical and reasonable to live from fear. And therefore we stay in it. But what recovery is really, it's a paradigm shift. It's waking up from the matrix, if you will. It's an entire different programming. And if you believe you're getting better and you're improving and you're measuring the presence of feelings and the presence of thoughts as the benchmark to if you're getting better or not, the overwhelming odds are you're going to just be riding different waves, in ebbs and flows and kind of episodic episodes where you have a lot of these experiences and they kind of die down for a bit, and then you have a lot of these experiences and they die down, and that tends to be the experience. And I lived that for a long time, so I can speak into it. But I've also lived on the other side of it. And so I very, very much know the difference personally, because I used to say the same thing. I used to go, well, I think I'm improving. I've been trying this new technique, and I think I'm getting better, right? But the measuring stick is totally incorrect. So, and again, if you don't, it's not your fault if you're doing that, because you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know, and that itself is part of the issue. But like, the reality is, even if, and this is going to be an incredibly controversial statement potentially, but I'm probably one of the only people on online or having a podcast or show that would ever say something like this. But if you're watching this or listening to this and your intentionality is to heal and recover, part of your baseline you know, like is how relevant is the content here for you? Because your goal, if you're here for recovery, should at some point to be to stop watching this. And the reason that you would stop watching this or stop listening to this is not because you're frustrated or you know, I said something that triggered you or whatever. It's because literally it would be completely irrelevant to you. Like it wouldn't apply to your life. Like that's a great baseline to like how, like if you're still getting a lot out of the episodes, and it's like, hey, I'm going to try this and I'm going to try this, and you're searching for through the episodes for an answer, that's an indication that you're not there, right? It's the same way as like anything in life. Like when I was first, you know, starting you know, a business, for instance, it's like I would consume content relentlessly about like, you know, what I needed to do and how I needed it, and I would look for answers, all these answers externally and all this stuff. But now I don't listen or, you know, consume like, you know, business podcast or anything like that, right? Because you know, I know it now. Like it's embodied at this point. It's like part of my whole system, right? Recovery, you can tell you've reached a place of recovery because a lot of what's talked about on a show like this is obsolete. It's irrelevant. It's not, it doesn't even register with you because you live from a completely different state. You don't connect to the idea of, you know, living from fear because your state is totally different. And think about that. Think about like how something that you used to consume a lot or go through became obsolete when you really reached a place in life where it didn't do anything for you. And that could be like you got married and you are starting a family, so you know, and you maybe used to listen to like dating advice. Like you would never listen to a dating advice show if you really were in the relationship you wanted to be in. It would become obsolete, right? Because that was to serve you to get to where you wanted to go, assuming that that was like something, or it's just an analogy. But it's like anything else. It's like if you're listening to a body transformation platform or episode or show, when you actually have the transform and you have the body you want, you wouldn't worry about transforming it anymore. It wouldn't be part of what you would consume. So I say that to say, like, your goal, my goal for you, interestingly enough, would be that you would get to the point where this became obsolete, where you left and started just living your life. Like I say to anyone that comes through taking back control, like our goal is, you know, at some point for you to never say, hey, I never want to speak to you again, right? Because that means that you've gotten there. You see what I'm saying? That's recovery. Recovery is where you've embodied this to the point where you've had the transformation and the paradigm shift, the entire way that you perceive and feel in life has transcended that level of fear. It doesn't mean that you don't feel fear from time to time. What it means is it's not your base. It's not where you live consistently. And you're not afraid of fear either, right? You live from a place of embodied trust. That's what recovery feels like. And your goal, if you have been a listener, well, I'm so grateful for you, by the way. What I want for each and every one of you is to you to reach a point where this becomes obsolete. Because the reason this exists, from the podcast to our social platforms to the book to TBC itself, where we actually help you embody all this, the reason this exists is to take you from fear to trust. And when someone is in trust, obviously, like, the next step is to go move into whatever the next aspect of their life is. And that's why any platform should exist, is to create a transformation and ultimately allow you to continue on your journey once that's achieved, not to keep you stuck in it. This is where I think the mental health field, can go a little sideways at times, because there can be this ideology of just keep working on yourself and really always keep coming back, and you're never really done. And this endless pursuit, it really gets you nowhere. The shift from fear to trust is real and achievable and available. And it's not symptom management. It's not coping. It's a literal shift. And you can tell that you're there because something like this would become obsolete. And if it's not obsolete, it's not a bad thing. It just means that you're not there. And that's okay. Okay? But that's what real recovery feels like. That's the embodiment of it. It's not that you don't have thoughts or feelings, it's that your entire perspective and relationship and perception and paradigm of that is radically different, because the underlying place that you live from is trust, where the underlying place that someone who's stuck in this lives from is fear. This is why you'll hear people say things that probably piss you off a lot when they say, well, yeah, I've had thoughts like that. Right? Or, yeah, I've had feelings like that too. And it feels like they're discrediting your experience, when really that's not what's happening. Is they're experiencing those things from a completely different field. So their perception of it is totally different than yours. And the shifting of that is really what we're talking about, not the experience. This is why if you focus on trying to control the thoughts and feelings, you're always going to stay in the same plane. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. So with that said, hope this was helpful. Wishing you all a great day and a great week, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Hey there, thanks so much for watching that episode. If you found it helpful, we have some links to some other episodes that we think you might like as well. And if you're looking for help on your journey to recovery from fear, stress, and anxiety, either check out the links in the notes or head over to restoredminds.com. Thank you, and talk to you soon.